everybody. Thanks so much for coming along to this event to launch the book of the podcast, What Northern Ireland Means to Me. We're really delighted to see you all, and particularly to see some of the contributors here as well. It's really great for you to make the time to come along. And a special thanks to Accidental Theatre for hosting us as well. I'm Julia Paul, and this is Alan Leonard, and along with Alan Mabon, we are SharedFuture News, which is a website publication dedicated to stories about peace building, reconciliation, and diversity.
Thanks, everyone. So I'd like to explain just a bit of the history about the book, what went behind it. So for the centenary of Northern Ireland last year, we wanted to do something that kind of created a shared experience, but that has had a diverse of voices as possible. So after some thought, we thought a podcast would be good, and a podcast where you would hear from the contributors without any other commentary. So it was the voices that of Northern Ireland that we wanted to share. So to make this happen, we were fortunate to get funding from the Northern Ireland office through their Shared History Fund, and that was administered by the Heritage Fund. And so for both, we're very grateful for enabling the podcast to happen. But it was always in the back of my mind of having some visual representation of this. So kind of outside the project, decided to organize taking photographs of the contributors just to see what might come of it. So that was I was accumulating a collection of images of not only of the contributors, but I'd asked each one of them to share with me something that meant something special to them, whether it was an object or a place. So I just collected a bunch of images in the course of last year.
And Alan had also spent his time transcribing the podcast so that when you could access them on the website, as well as seeing an image of the contributor, you could also read what they had said, and you could also listen to the podcast in their own voice. So the more of this material that we gathered, the more we began to think, were there other ways that we could use that to actually put this material out into the public domain? And we started thinking about a book publication. So we wanted to give some thanks, particularly to the Community Relations Council, who gave us some additional funding, which was for the book, to Colin Slack, who designed it, and I think everybody who's seen it will agree it's such a beautiful publication. To W&G Bard for their high-quality printing, because again, it really jumps out at you. I think even though we'd seen all of the material, when you see it put together, it really kind of, just came out beautifully. And also to No Alibis Bookstore for funding our very first book.
Indeed. So to celebrate the amazing work of all those people and all of the contributors, we just wanted to have a special event to celebrate the work. We want to invite you to share this with us. And to remind you, if you haven't noticed already, we have copies on sale at the back desk. You can also buy them from our website, sharedfuture.news. And as Julia said, they're in stock at No Alibi Bookstore. So tonight you're going to hear from us, but about what our experience is in interviewing collectively the 26 people. But perhaps more interestingly, you're going to hear from some of the contributors themselves. We will open the floor at the end for any comments or questions that you wish to have with us. And you may have noticed that we've got resident artist, Brian John Spencer, who has been busy live drawing this event for all of its glory.
So when we started recording people, we found that initially a lot of the contributors found it quite hard to sum up what Northern Ireland meant to them. That was the kind of initial question that we asked everybody. For many people, home was the first word that came to mind. But when we dug deeper, we found that home meant different things to different people. Dr. Emily Stanton, one of the contributors who came here from America, is a peace-building practitioner. And she summed up Northern Ireland using one word, which was complexity. And I absolutely love that description because for me, that really encompassed everything that's fascinating about living here, but also sometimes quite frustrating and annoying as well. Deirdre McBride described Northern Ireland as being about family and friends, but also for her a place of tragedy, because it's where her brother was disabled in a sectarian attack. While for Ian Marshall, who's a member of the UUP, he described Northern Ireland as this wee place punching above its weight. the home of George Best, of Snow Patrol. So this place that, has this incredible output as a place that is actually quite a small place.
Of course, Northern Ireland's dual heritage goes back centuries, and many times it's seen as competing. But several of our contributors reference the writings of the poet John Hewitt, how John Hewitt described the many threads of identity on this island as forming a knot.
And part of that knot, of course, is the Irish language itself. And our first guest is somebody who's faithfully promoted the learning of Irish, despite coming from a unionist background, which is something you might not expect. Please welcome Linda Ervine.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
So, Linda, please introduce yourself and tell those of us who don't already know about your work, some of the work that you're doing.
Okay, so I manage the Tourist Project in East Belfast. It's an Irish language project, and it started almost 10 years ago.
And what are some of the things that you're up to at tourists? There's the language instruction, but there's tours?
Yeah. Well, we've become one of the biggest language providers in Belfast, so we would sign up about 300 people a year for the language. Just to sectarianise it, the majority of our learners would come from the unionist community. We now have 9 people at university, and we also started an integrated Irish medium nursery school, the first of its kind. And we started that last year, and we're also training people in childcare. We also have a tourism project. So we discovered, my colleague Gordon did a lot of research into Con O'Neill, who's the last Gaelic Lord of East Belfast, and that just sort of snowballed. So now we do bus tours. There is one running on the 13th of May. So get your name down, go online, and you can sign up for that. And we do them regularly. We also have a Gaelic East Belfast bus tour. We do lectures, talks. We do an annual Con O'Neill lecture sort of festival. And what we'd like to do is we're working with Queen's University to get a scan done up at the field where the original castle was, because Castle Ray, Cashleen Rayawalk, Grey Castle. And we also are working with NIE to get the inauguration site cleared and make it accessible to the public. And what we'd really like to do is connect the Conswater Greenway and the Cumber Greenway up into the Castlereagh Hills, where people could walk up and go out into the countryside and visit the castle site and go out to the Lisnabrini and whatnot. So it's a work in progress.
Fantastic. You're very busy, Linda. So now, Linda, once you started learning Irish, you described in your podcast contribution feeling a sense of loss at not being able to learn it before. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
Yeah, well, when I was introduced to the language, say it was about 11 years ago, I think one of the things that drew me to it was in Irish, to say I speak Irish, the way you tend to form that, you don't say, Lorm Gaelic, I speak Irish. You tend to say to Gaelic Ugam, I have Irish. And I remember thinking at the time, I would love to be able to say to Gaelic Ugam. I'm still working on it. I'm in my second year at Queen's, doing a degree in Irish. But, I wanted it to be part of my identity, so I started to learn it. And I suppose the more I got involved in it, and the more I started to realise, it was in our place names, it was all around us, it was our surnames, it was kind of part of who we are. And then I felt this awful sense of denial that I had never, I was born in Belfast, I spent my whole life in Belfast, but I didn't know it was Belfast yet. The most basic information I didn't possess. And, I was in my 40s. And I just thought, wow, that how sad is that,
Well, you've certainly have taken that angst and made the most of it. So I understand that you're going to read for us in Irish. If you'd like to share that with us, particularly those of us who aren't Galgori, if I've said that right.
Well, Sean Balladoo, near Hastro May Rio, Anira. Ní ólas de léad agam aitribí seachas tuascart éireann. Ní dóilm gur bhhailm bheith am a hónaí an aitribí eile seachas tuascart éireann. Agus fiú agus mé a dúscart éireann. Ní hocu lum a hawailt bheith am a hónaí ach I mé farste. Seo an ait a rugu mé, agus tásúil agam gurb an a bhuihí mé bás ach hán rólua. Well, it's home. I've never really travelled. I don't really know anywhere very well apart from Northern Ireland. And I don't think I'd like to live anywhere except Northern Ireland. Even within Northern Ireland, I couldn't imagine living anywhere but Belfast. It's where I was born, and I hope it's where I'll die, but not too soon.
Thank you.
Linda, many thanks. Well, we also wanted to make sure that as part of the podcast, we heard from some of the newer communities or the newer identities in Northern Ireland that are now making up part of that knot, or even actually some of the identities that have been here for a very long time, but often are not heard from. Eileen Chan-Hu, who's with us tonight, who's second-generation Chinese, told us in her contribution how her experience of often being the only non-white child at school in Belfast in the 70s has led her into a life of campaigning for racial equality. And the poet Nandi Jola, who's also here, who's originally from South Africa and has just published her own book of poetry, she explained how Northern Ireland for her was a place of transformation, enabled her to move from an immigrant identity into that identity of a writer, but also how her daughter, who is both Black and Northern Irish, is now helping to transform the new Northern Ireland. And we know that Northern Ireland is often a place of inspiration. We heard that from a lot of our contributors. And I'd like to introduce you to our second guest, who is the poet Emma Must. She, like me, is a blow-in, but she's been here for 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julie.
Emma, can you introduce yourself for us, for those who don't know of you?
Yes, delighted. So I'm a poet. Before that, I was a full-time environmental activist for a very long time. My first full-length poetry collection is coming out in December, which is lovely. I came here to study at Queen's originally, a decade ago, as Julia said. And I wasn't really anticipating staying, but I did. And it's now very definitely home, and I am relentlessly upbeat about being here. So I'm really delighted to be in the very fabulous book that Alan and Julia have made.
Can you tell us a little bit about your contribution? What kind of jumped out for you when we asked you what does Northern Ireland mean to you?
Yeah. So, I love living here, and I thought about my contribution. I thought, right, I'm just going to rave about the place, and that's it. Why I love it so much is, so I came for the poetry, and I stayed for the poetry, but also I discovered this depth and breadth and intelligence of a writing community here in Belfast that I'd been looking for my whole adult life, actually. And so I came for the poetry, I stayed for the poetry and the writing, but what also unlocked Belfast for me, I think, was when I found the river, when I discovered the River Lagan and the valley, which is such a magical place. And I discovered that it's like an artery through the city, and that I could get pretty much anywhere in the city on my bike by starting off at the river and then branching off from there. So the combination of the writing and the river and my bike was...
Thank you so much. You're going to read us some of your poetry?
Yeah. Thank you, Julia. So I'm going to read just two poems. They do exactly what they say on the tin, so I'm not going to introduce them at all. And the first one is about cycling. Cycling to IKEA. I went for curtains. Beige, I thought, linen. I would carry them home in my handlebar basket. But as I pedalled along Airport Road, what unfolded in front of me was the fabric of a city's hem. Great warehouses and hangars, Phoenix natural gas, bird hides numbered 1 and 2, an improbable hairdressing enterprise. And beyond the Abercorn Basin, the cool white limbs of a wind farm being born, or the pipes of a giant organ, transplanted from the Ulster Hall, blown out of all proportion, or a grove of silver flutes, silently fingering airs. I put these treasures in my basket, and in the gaps between them stuffed storage boxes, Tupperware, a small blue lampshade, meatballs. Cycling back at dusk past that hairdresser's, Hairport, I thought, they missed a trick. I also acquired black ticks of birds like affirmations, alighting on the surface of the loch, then taking off. Kids in uniform, their headphones echoing the gantries at Harland and Wolff. The sunset streaming tangerine and pomegranate. Caught for a handful of minutes in the window glass of Citibank. Thank you very much, and I'm going to finish with this one. Belfast Pastoral. Summer has come early, our golden age is now. As I walk to Tomb Street to fetch a book from Amazon in a cardigan as yellow as the dockyard cranes, everything is golden. No parking at any time, painted on a garage door. Urban clearway signs. Grit containers angry at their own obsolescence. There's more besides the fries in a KFC bucket meal, the money shop, the way on the end of sub. The parks are full, the botanic gardens overbrims with a festival of legs and arms. Everybody sunning themselves on spread out coats. We lick twisters and, more of a mouthful, Roundtree's fruit pastel lollies. We talk poems, and this is no longer the city you've read about.
Thank you so much, Emma.
So we also know that Northern Ireland can inspire art forms other than beautiful words. As we talk to people from different walks of life, we learned that there are many different Northern Irelands. Our next guest, Darren Ferguson's Northern Ireland is one of sound and music, and here to tell us more about it is Darren. Please, you're very welcome.
I'm not going to sing, so I'll first.
Well, Darren, do tell us about yourself and the work that you do.
Yeah, so I suppose I wear many hats, but most of my work is around an organisation I founded called Beyond Skin. We've been going for 18 years, and I suppose embedded through it is my love of the arts, especially music. So we work across all art forms. Music is definitely our strength, and using it to help people, I suppose, gather a sense of their identity, their sense of belonging, and how they connect with their local and global neighbours, and how we kind of weave through, sharing this planet together and work through our differences and similarities and so on. So, and that's quite diverse, not only in terms of, it could be somebody teaching West African dance in a school, to working with loyalist flip bands, to doing a project in Afghanistan, But within that, it's all the art forms are quite diverse, and obviously we'll have Benny later on with some of his music.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, in your contribution, you described Northern Ireland as being a global jukebox. Can you please elaborate on what you meant by that?
Yeah, I'm a curious guy, so I'm always a bit of a venture in me. I'm a geek in a way, because I still buy CDs because I love to read the sleeve notes to see like, well, who's engineering this and who are the people making this. So I've always been curious that way, and when you're that way, you delve into stuff which is probably not seen as much, stuff that's under the surface. And that's working with a lot of diverse talent. Some people have been born here, some have lived here a long time, and some have just arrived to our shores, some not by choice, trying to seek sanctuary. And I just think we're in I see it as, when you say global jukebox, they're like a treasure chest of this amazing stuff we have. But sometimes it feels with our politics, some people are sitting on the lid, and you just want to really open this stuff up and just let it out. Because even all the work we're doing with a lot of people who are seeking sanctuary in the hotels, I mean, there's such a wealth of talent there. I just think we're missing a trick, really, because if we enable people to work and to use their skills, it would just take our economy into orbit overnight. So that's where my passion lies, of trying to connect people and trying to give people a platform of building up their skills and exercising their music skills and having that voice as well.
Well, speaking of letting it out, would you like to introduce our special guest?
Yes, so Benny, I'll let him grab this instrument here, this beautiful instrument, which is called the Santor. So the quick story, and by the way, Benny always tells me his language is the instrument, so that's why I'm speaking on his behalf. He just likes to play. And the short story is an amazing professional artist who's originally from Iran, who's come to our shores, had a horrific journey, but his instrument, this beautiful instrument, the Santor, got lost in Poland. So we managed to track it down, find it, and get it carried over and kind of reunite him with his instrument there recently. So that was a joy. So I'm going to invite Benny up then to play a song.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Well, that's nearly the end of our presentation, but there is another contributor to the podcast who has been working away tirelessly while we've all been enjoying ourselves. Brian John Spencer, can you come up to the stage and introduce yourself? Yeah, do you want to just tell everybody about yourself first of all? Yeah.
So, can you hear? Is this on?
It should be, yeah.
Yes, should be
No,
fine.
you're
Yeah.
okay.
So I'm sitting in the dark trying to paint. It's happened before, and but my eyes have adjusted, and hopefully they're good. So yeah, what I do is just I do portraits of people. I've always been mystified by how people can capture someone's likeness in lines, like the old Roald Friars paintings. If you saw them in the Belfast Telegraph, of Paisley and Hume, and that was a sort of witchcraft that I wanted to capture and be able to do and possess that, because so few people have it. And I know the joy that it gave me to see someone do it, and I want to be able to do that for other people. Like in particular, if you see the old Beatles cartoons, they're sort of like the Flintstones. There's such a cartoon, but how does it look so much like Ringo Starr? And if I could get anywhere near achieving that with what I do, I'd be very happy. And if I could show, I think one gets kind of near there.
This is terrifying.
So we're doing a pretty good thing anyway.
Oh my God, that is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. That is
My pleasure. And I think what makes that extra special is it drew you, what, 20 years ago?
10.
All right, 10. I'm only joking.
Do you want to say about it? Do you remember it?
Yeah, but it wasn't that Ringo Starr moment. I think it was. I like to talk about my art. Like sometimes you get a swoosh, nothing but net.
That is really amazing.
Quite satisfying, and I think so. That's quite nice to have done that.
The last time he drew me, I read a poem which mentioned my uncle's testicles. it mentioned him eating sheep's testicles, which were very hot, so his own popped. And Brian did this amazing picture, and I'm standing there with the book, and underneath there's this pair of testicles. I still have it. I love it. I've never told my uncle about it.
But I think that one's more on the money for me. But I'm glad you like that one.
Thank you so much. I love it.
Do you want me to show maybe
Yes,
one other one?
please.
Darren, which was he might disagree, but I think it was.
Oh, no way.
So that's kind of the response I want. And then Alan's another one I like to do. I feel like I hit the back wall and bounced off the ring and it's gone in. It's not the best.
Well, like Emma, you did me about over 10 years ago
Yeah.
at Common Ground.
So it's nice to have walked that full journey in a way, because I needed people like you to entertain me with these awful creations I was doing, and hopefully these are a lot better.
My
So
pleasure, Brian.
Oh,
Thanks very much.
So- and I'll have most of them coloured, sitting at the back for people to
Wow.
look at.
that's amazing.
And hopefully you like yours too, Julia.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Brian, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for contributing to the whole evening.
Yeah, absolutely.
My
No,
pleasure.
thank
Thanks for
you.
having me, guys.
I'm going to wrap up then now. So thank you again, everybody, for coming. Thank you particularly to our contributors, as well as you for joining us tonight. And I guess when we look at what Northern Ireland means to me, we understand that this sort of collection of thoughts, words and faces and accents as well is, of course, by no means a complete document, a finished document, if you like. But what we hope is that it stands as an insight into what people thought about Northern Ireland, what Northern Ireland meant to a different variety of people as it marked its centenary in 2021.
So thanks everyone for coming. Really appreciate your attendance. And if you haven't already, there's still books to purchase in the back on our website or at No Alibis bookstores. Thank you so much for coming.